And we're back for another exciting week where we're going to be restoring a scroll saw. This is a scroll saw I've been working on for a while, or wanting to work on for a while, but today we're going to be working on the table, the pedals, and the struts that connect them. So hang on to your knickers, because this is going to be a fun ride. So first off, we have the tabletop, which I got from Ed Hobbs, who's a collector of foot-powered machinery. And it is in pretty bad shape, fairly well pitted, but still functional, and so I need to clean it off. And particularly, I need to clean off all the grime and junk that's on it so I can get at the rest underneath. So I'm going to be using a couple different methods of wire brush, scraping things off, chisel coming in and getting off any of the paint and epoxy that had been dripped onto it. Of course, this is a bad old epoxy chisel. So then we can put it in a bath and start getting the rust to soak off of it. This will sit overnight, and then I can come back and start doing the cleanup. I want to get rid of some of the pitting, which means I'm going to have to take off some material. I'm going to use a set of files, particularly on the edge, and go all the way around on this. I'm not trying to get rid of all of the pitting, as that would require far more work and it would remove far more material than I want to. I'm just trying to get it down to a smooth to the touch feel of the surface. And so I'm going to be hitting it with several different rasps and files until I get it down to a relatively clean, smooth surface. Then we can move on to the surface of the table, and this is where I'm going to start hitting it with sandpaper. I'm starting with like a 30 grit sandpaper and then going down and down from there. Eventually, once I get into the lighter weight sandpapers, I'm actually going to add some lubricant, and I actually like to use a rust penetrating spray to lubricate as opposed to just a standard oil. I find that it just gives me a better finish in the end. After that, we can wipe it off and then apply some paste wax to it. The paste wax will seal in the steel and keep it from rusting in the future. Now we can work on the pedals, and Ed sent me the patterns for these so I can cut them out of some stock I have, and I have some red oak that will work perfectly for this. Traditionally they were made out of a beech or a birch or something of that nature, and something with a closed cell format, but this will work perfectly fine. So I can take the pattern he uses and then trace it out. Give me a very close facsimile to what was originally there. These are a little bit narrower, as that's the stock I had, but oh well, I'm going to lose about an 1/8 inch or so. And I tried a couple different things for rounding over the edge using the turning saw, and then I decided I'm actually just going to use a chisel on the rest of them. The chisel I just find to be a little bit faster, especially with taking off decent chunks of material, whereas the turning saw will cut through large strings of material quickly. The chisel will chop down in fairly quickly. So here you can see I'm just following the line, and I'll chop in from one side, then come and pare out, chop in, pare out, until I get it down to the line. Then I need to rip down along the thin line, and I find it much easier to use the frame saw. This chops through this material very quickly, especially the thicker material. On each stroke it's moving down a good 3/4 inch or more, and it's just a lot of fun to use. And if you don't know what this is, I have several videos on making a couple of them, and a lot of fun. After that, we can go into the refining work, and we want to come in with some rasps and files, get rid of any of the saw marks, smooth it down, and I'm going to be going through a different series of rasps and files, getting into finer and finer files, then adding a chamfer and a little bit of a roundover on all of the edges, and we're basically ready. The next thing we need to do is attach this to the steel struts, and for that there are several holes that need to be drilled, aligned, and poked through. Once we have those aligned, we can attach in the bolts and clamp this down to the steel structure. Really nice design, and I kind of like it, because if anything happens to the pedal, you can make a new one. Then you can see how it slides on here, and the person would sit in front of this and pedal these struts up and down. Now we're actually going to work on the strut connector. This is what connects the back of the pedal to the flywheel. And it is a little bit more dainty item and has a little bit of shaping to it, and I wanted to have a bit of fun with this. Ed also set the pattern for that, and so I can lay that out on a piece of white oak that I have, making sure that it is in line with the grain of the white oak. I want it to be nice and stiff, so I have the grain running the length of the strut. I use a marker to transfer on the edge so that I get a really nice clean line for what is staying and what's going. Then we can start by rough ripping these apart. And it takes a bit to get these cut apart. They're an odd shape, and if you just try and scroll saw them all out, you're going to be spending a lot of time on it. I find it much easier to rough out the general shape with bigger saws, and then to come in and clean it all up with spoke shaves and rasps and chisels and things like that. So now that we have them to the rough shape, we can follow the line, which I can see on my side, and just chisel down to what we need to go. This, for some reason, scares a lot of people, but if you take it step by step and go through it slowly, it actually works out pretty well and is a fairly easy process. I'm going to be using several different rasps, several different files for different angles, getting into different things, and slowly work it back to the line. You can see here how I'm just tracing along that line, cleaning up with the spoke shave, and continuing on. For all of the corners and edges on this, I'm actually going to be doing a heavy roundover on it. Where it's tight up into that shoulder, I have to use rounded rat's tail rasps, and then for the main shaft, I can then clean it up with a spoke shave, and then get rid of the facets from the spoke shave with a file, using a little bit of a draw knife function, as well as running across the board will clean it out. If your rasps or files ever get clogged up, you can use a curved file to clean them out, and they cut like new right afterwards. It's kind of nice. And this I found to be a lot of fun. Just going at it with a spoke shave, getting that organic shape, feeling it, seeing what I like, and I'm just really happy with it. Next thing to do is drill a hole in the end on both ends, and this is where the strut can connect to the flywheel.
I'm a man.
And the strut can connect to the pedal.
I can change.
I did a test hole first just to make sure everything went the way it should, and I can put the pin into that hole and see if it's nice and tight. I wanted it to be a little bit tight, and it got it just the way I wanted it. Next, we can drill the holes in the ends of the struts and attach it on, and the strut is basically done at this point. I'm not going to do any of the finishing on it, and you can see they're a little bit rough on the outside still. I'm going to wait on that until it is all ready for the final finish, then I can come back and smooth them all in. And I'll be doing the final paint on all of the steel structure as well then. So everything will come apart later, finish it up, and put it back together at the final step. So there we have a functioning pedal and strut. Yeah, I'm very, very happy. I'm looking forward to getting the flywheel on this and start pedaling this thing up and down. Just a joy to play with, and I'm looking forward to using it for years to come.